Welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast. Hey Toby, welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. The sun is shining. It's Bank Holiday Monday, so we'll make a fast version of this today, I reckon, Toby.
Sounds good.
So usually these take around about an hour and a half, but I thought what we'll do is we'll do a kind of a fast track version of a podcast, just because it was really important that I get you on here along with talking about filtered and stuff. So usually I ask the guests to summarize what they are, their logline, their summary of who they are. Do you have one?
I don't really have a log line. I was trying to think of one in advance of a call, but I haven't been able to come up with one. I think I can just give you a kind of slightly partisan, aggressive sounding agenda instead of a log line. Does that work?
That works. Let's do it.
Okay. So in the L&D industry, I guess my agenda would be to encourage people to stop making up strategies on the basis of myths and falsehoods and false ideas of learning, and to start behaving in a way which is much more scientific and much more empirical, by doing experiments, doing pilots, and seeing what works by looking at data. That's kind of my agenda.
Awesome, I love it. So I guess usually we'd get into some other questions around that, but for them who don't know who you are, so maybe give us a bit of a brief overview of kind of where you've come from and where you are right now.
Yeah, sure. So I've worked in and around the learning technologies space more or less since graduating, so getting on for about 10 years now. I spent a lot of that time working for Saffron Interactive, and there I had a role that both involved winning some of their big projects, but also rolling them out. And so in that life, I've seen a lot of large-scale learning technology deployments, whether that's deploying a custom LMS or whether that's building large, elaborate, bespoke content experiences. And I've been lucky enough to help some clients win some awards for doing things a bit differently in that space whilst I was there. Then in July 2016, I moved over from Saffron Interactive to Filtered, which we'll talk about in a bit, but I was enthralled by the idea of using AI to do things differently in this industry. And around the same time, I also decided to become a director of the e-learning network. So keeping one foot firmly in the community of practice more broadly around L&D, as well as now spending most of my time working in quite a specialist way with artificial intelligence and filtered products.
Awesome. Wow. So I think instantly I've decided that we'll have to do a part 2 to this, Toby, definitely. Because there's so much what I'd love to jump into. But I guess maybe talk about, filtered. I mean, I've seen recently Magpie and stuff like that. So maybe talk a little bit about that and what Filtered's up to.
So Magpie is our name for the product we built, which is an intelligent learning recommendation system. It is a chatbot-led user interface, which asks you some simple questions about your role, and based on the work that we've put in at the back end, which is augmented by machine learning processes, goes away and pulls up playlists of recommendations organized by skill or competency categories. And within each of those trays, prioritizes the top piece of learning for you. It's often associated in the mind of our audience with the work we've done on curation, because we've filled it with high quality free materials. And it's something that you can try very easily. Just navigate to the Filtered website and follow the signs for Magpie for L&D professionals. You pop in your email address and you can get access to it and have a go.
Awesome. So yeah, I will definitely be doing that because I think this sort of stuff is fascinating. So, okay, so let's talk about you a bit, Toby. Okay, so usually I ask my guests if they was to give a book as a gift to 3 people, what book would they give, and what would yours be?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with a book called Algorithms to Live By. This is a book that was recommended by our CEO, Mark, to a number of people to read. So it's by Brian Christian and Tom Griffith, subtitled The Computer Science of Human Decisions. And what the book does very well is explain how mathematicians have looked at problems that are very similar to the problems we solve in everyday life. So, for example, deciding how to move into a new flat or what flat to pick is a very common problem with the rental market in places like London. Knowing when to jump and how long you should look for. These are all difficult questions for an individual to capture. And they explain that this is actually a version of the optimal stopping problem or the secretary problem, which has been looked at by mathematicians for a long time. How many people should you interview for a position before you start? How do you get the most benefit? And there are, there's simple numbers and there's simple answers to these questions that you can then apply. So it's just a really interesting book because it kind of gets to the core of how mathematical processes work and how machine learning works. That's kind of how you can explore these topics. So definitely a good starter book for anyone who wants to get a grounding in understanding all this AI technology stuff.
Okay, awesome. I think I've seen it. I've never read it, but I'll definitely get this one added onto the reading list for sure. So, 80-20 rule. So, example is 20% of the contacts on my phone I dial 80% of the time. The other 80% of the contacts I dial 20% of the time. So, if I was to say to you, apply the 80-20 rule, and this can be personal or professional, it's up to you. What would you say has been your biggest result for minimum? What's been the minimum we've done? What's brought in the biggest result?
Yeah, so 80-20 rule, Pareto principle, really nice rule because it's empirically demonstrated in a few different situations. I actually use it as a heuristic quite a lot. One example of the 80-20 rule coming into play was for an award-winning project that I worked on with an organisation called Against Violence and Abuse at Saffron Interactive, where they had a requirement to spread the results of a 5-year exercise in gathering best practices for teachers and how to minimise harm towards women and girls in the school setting. They came to us with quite a small budget and said we need 2 hour-long e-learning courses and a website to support them. They didn't have a budget, based on our prices anyway, to do anything like 2 hours of e-learning. So we said what we can do instead is build a 20-minute kind of starter piece of learning and put the rest into a website, put all your resources into a website and make it very easily navigatable. So the website was more like 20% of the effort, and the e-learning, as usual, took up most of the effort. But it was actually the fact that we put it into a website that made it a useful tool, because obviously those are resources that were discoverable, personalized, accessible quickly, and it led to it winning a Media Award in end of 2014. That's a European level award, and a 2015 Learning Award Silver for Best Learning Solution of the Year, largely because instead of building hours of e-learning, we built a useful website.
Wow, and it's your little digital one-stop shop. Go there, find out what you need to do it, and it's easier than kind of locating an e-learning module and going through the module. So awesome, I love it. So if I was to say to you, okay, Toby, you can have a billboard right outside a football stadium, and everyone coming out of that football stadium will be able to see this message or this quote or whatever you're going to put on this billboard, what would you have that billboard say?
I'm going to shamelessly steal from the insight of Filtered CEO Mark. Maybe you should get him on this podcast next. And because I disagree completely with this, the message I would put on that billboard is don't multitask.
Okay.
Multitasking costs huge amounts of cognitive ability. It's difficult to switch between tasks. It's not really possible to do two tasks at the same time. But if you go into any office, you'll see people with lots of tabs open, putatively trying to do lots of different things at the same time. And if people just picked one task and focused only on that and didn't do anything else, they would be so much more effective.
Okay, good advice. Perfect. So if I was to say to you, you get to do 2 hours out of your day, your personal day, professional day, like I say, what 2 hours, and you had to relive this as a full-time job, what 2 hours would you pick?
So what, I had to lose 2 hours out of my day?
No, so you had to pick 2 hours out of your day, what you most enjoy, and then you would have to relive these 2 hours over and over again. What 2 hours would you pick?
Okay. Is this a single time or experience or something I do every day?
It could be whatever you want. You could break it down into 2 1 hours if you like. But yeah, it could be anything. It could be maybe it's something like, I don't know, creative thinking or design or whatever it is your sweet spot is.
Okay. Well, I think that if there was one thing that I could do all of the time, which I only do for maybe an hour a week if I'm lucky, is have people in a room and then be talking about a problem and almost having the light bulb come on, in that they realise that there's a different way to do this and they don't need to keep doing things the conventional way. So I had a call recently where I spent about an hour persuading someone at a large charity not to embark on the e-learning development program, which they'd sort of been mandated to do, because I was in a position to be able to do that because we don't sell e-learning at Filtered, or we don't sell the sort of service. And that was just a great moment. That was really an hour spent kind of helping someone understand what could really be effective and not just repeating the same thing that he'd heard from everyone else, which was, yeah, we can build X amount of e-learning modules. This will solve this problem. I was saying, well, there's lots of reasons why it probably won't solve the problem, so don't do it. And that was just very liberating, and it's just great because I know that I'm saving him a lot of unnecessary pain. So if I could spend all of my time doing that sort of thing, I'd be pretty pleased with it.
Awesome. So what's the top 3, and we'll do 2 questions of 3 just because I'm aware of time. So what's the top 3 tools or resources, however you want to, label that, but they can't be Google as a search engine, and you can't use social media. What other resources do you use?
Cool, good question. No social media. Okay, no Google. Well, okay, so I would say that one of the tools that I use would be in general, libraries and books, and specifically a couple of key books that are really useful. One of them is called Urban Myths in Learning and Education by Pedro de Bruquier and a few other collaborators. Books are really useful. They convey information if they're well written in a form which is really easy to apply and refer to, and books are capable of citing their own sources very easily. I refer to books like that a lot. I think there's lots of other books people could refer to. Okay. So that would be one. Probably not answering this quickly enough. Number 2 would be Filtered's own Slack channel. Maybe that counts as social media, where we use, and I'm a member of a few different Slack communities, actually, not just Filtered, where people post regular things like ask me anything, or share your snags and brags on a Friday, or share what went well this week, and those regular questions and interaction points popping up, I find a really good way to kind of stimulate new discussion. And finally, another tool, I'll just pick something recent. Good practice have been making a really good podcast where they're engaging with a lot of the key issues. I've also, in my own time, listened to podcasts like The History of Philosophy Without Any Gaps, which are just great resources. I just love podcasts at the moment. So
Yes, definitely. Okay, awesome. Last question for free. So if I was to say to who's 3 people who you're interested in at the moment, maybe it's people who have been on the scene for a while, and it's in learning and development, or maybe it's newbies coming onto the scene, who's the 3 people you think people should be kind of not watching out for as such, but paying a bit of an interest into?
Yeah, that's a good question. So 3 people I think are worth paying attention to. One of them would probably be yourself, Danny.
Oh, okay, so, thank you.
Just based on our conversations and what I've heard about you and your experience, you are definitely someone I would watch out for. So hopefully that's okay. It's not too log rolly to kind of give you as the answer.
No, thank you. Thank
you. The second person I would recommend people follow and get behind would probably be Laurie Niles Hoffman. She has recently moved over to be Chief Learning Officer for Fuse, but both preceding that and now as part of this role, she has done a lot of work and published a very understandable book on how to use data to design learning experiences that are better. She approaches it in a very practical, very appropriate way, and I definitely would recommend following her. The other person I would say to recommend following and paying some attention to would be someone else called Jamie Good, who gave a keynote kind of presentation at the Learning Technologies Conference earlier this year, and very publicly both trialed and reflected upon an SMS-based chatbot, which everyone at the conference used. I like a lot of things about what Jamie does, especially the way he evangelizes for new technology coming in like chatbots, and the way he's a bit of a maven and can connect you with lots of people in a given area, and he actively seeks out those new connections. But what really won my respect and my attention was the fact he publicly tried out this chatbot experience. Some of it worked really well, other parts of it didn't work very well, and he shared a blog post reflecting on exactly what went well and what didn't go well. And I think that is the sort of thinking that we really need in this industry. I mean, in every industry really, not just us, but people openly doing experiments and reflecting on them so everyone can learn from them.
Perfect. Love it. Cheers, Toby. Thank you. Okay, so where can people find out a bit more about Toby and a bit more about Filtered, but mainly, more about Toby? Where can we find out more about you?
If you hit my LinkedIn profile, I've recently updated the picture, so it does actually look like I look like and not like I looked like 6 years ago. Then that's where I tend to publish some posts. So something recent, having a go at 70-20-10 and some other stuff there, and where I tend to share things. And also on Twitter as well, Toby_filtered, and you can connect with me. And the other place would be at an e-learning network event, so face-to-face event. I'm at lots of those, helping to do stuff that brings the industry forward, particularly our conference coming up in November, actually. That's a bit of a plug, isn't it? But that'll be a good place to catch me, because I'll be bringing together lots of my favourite people and organisations that are doing good stuff into a stream of conference presentations there.
Awesome. Okay, Toby, so I appreciate time is of the essence for you right now. And this is definitely a conversation which we need to kind of build upon for maybe part 2. But yeah, thanks for taking the time out. I really appreciate it.
No, yeah, brilliant. Thanks a lot for your time, Danny. And enjoy what remains of the bank holiday weekend.
Yes, you too. Cheers, Toby.
All right. Cheers, then. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.